that is just going around, as it were. Reality is what we see with our senses. And our senses are shaped by evolution. And what do they see? They see solid bodies that move around and that are subject to Newton's laws. They interact, but that's our reality. However, if we want to design modern electronic chips, we have to apply atomic theory. And the bodies that seem so solid to us are now conceived as consisting of minute atoms spaced by immense distances relative to their own size. And this is a kind of a scaffolding held up by nebulous electric fields. That is the next bottom, the next layer of reality. With other words, everything material, including ourselves, is just atoms and the void, as Democritus actually suspected. Now, is this deeper level the real reality? Is that what reality is? Well, not really, because the atoms that I talked about consist of yet smaller particles. And if you want to study subatomic physics, then there is another reality, which consists of the concepts used with these small particles. So the next question is, will this process of discovering deeper and deeper levels ever come to an end? And is there a final theory of everything? The theory of everything, which physicists call TOE. Is there a theory of everything that explains all aspects of the universe, including the necessity of its own existence? Or is reality something we will never understand? Is it something that can only be hinted at by art, music, ritual, and metaphysics? Now, I have now come to the core of my talk, really, because if there is a final theory, then everything is explained and philosophy is no longer necessary. It is dead, finally conquered by science. And as I mentioned before, this point of view is forcefully expressed in the book The Grand Design by Hawking and Brodmann. And they explain at the end of their book how they have found a theory that defines this deepest level of reality. And this theory explains how the universe, plus all its law, created itself by necessity, and hence that God is no longer needed. He, like philosophy, is dead too. Now, the irony of their reasoning, actually, is that it is in a very highly complicated mathematical way, it reaches the same conclusion as Thomas Aquinas, the 13th century scholastic philosopher. Aquinas was aware that in nature everything is caused by something else, which is caused by something else, which is caused by something else. And he reasoned it was absurd to think that this could go on forever. It had to stop somewhere. And so he postulated that there was a first causer, which wasn't caused by anything. And this first causer he called God. Now, Hawking and Mlodinow call it the ultimate theory. And you could just argue that the latter two authors have not so much killed God as well as redefined him. And the question for unbelievers is still the same, in spite of Aquinas and Hawking, namely, who created God? Or in scientific terms, where did the ultimate theory come from? In fact, one could go even further and ask, why should there be an ultimate theory at all? That is to say, why is there anything rather than nothing? Surprisingly, this is a famous conundrum in philosophy. It was first brought up by Leibniz in 1697. It goes back that long. And it has ever since been one of the fundamental philosophical questions about the universe. Now, surprisingly again, Hawkins and Mlodinow have an answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? It is somewhat along the following lines. In quantum mechanics, which seems to govern our universe, an empty universe that is nothing is impossible because of the fundamental uncertainties that are inherent in the theory. You cannot have nothing. Even the vacuum exhibits some kind of noise, as there are subatomic particles flitting in and out of existence. And that is a real feature of the theory. And I just want to make it clear that this theory has made predictions that are the most precise that have ever been made in any physical theory. So it's not just a fairy tale. Okay, so this is a clever answer to the philosophical question, why isn't there nothing? But of course, you could now ask, where does quantum mechanics come from? What is the necessity for that particular feature? And here too, Hawking and Mlodinow books gives an answer. Their ultimate theory, which is called M theory, nobody really knows what M stands for, by the way, but it is closely related to string theory. And string theory predicts the possibility of a practical infinity of different universes. And this is the so-called multiverse. And every one of these universes is characterized by different laws of physics. Now, we happen to live in one where quantum mechanics rules, and the strengths of all the forces and interactions of physics are just right to make human life possible. What a coincidence. Not really. Because although it's purely a matter of chance that such a universe exists, if you have an infinity of universes, this uncertainty becomes a certainty. So I don't want to denigrate Hawking and Mlodinow theory as regards the complex mathematical and technical issues. That's somewhat beyond my capabilities. I'm an applied physicist and not a theoretical physicist. And the mathematics is pretty horrendous. But from what I do understand, I find this theory, although not entirely original, it's very ingenious, and it's a logical solution to many long-standing problems in philosophy, like two I just mentioned. But whether it's physics depends on whether it can ever be verified. Now, in view of the assumption of many universes, infinitely many universes, presumably each universe close to our inspection, because the universe exists by itself. There are no outside observers of the universe. So if you take that into account, you ask yourself, how will we ever find out about these other universes? And so I personally doubt that this is, although it's a beautiful theory, that it will ever be more than elegant metaphysics. But maybe that is the unavoidable end of physics anyway, because we are sooner or later going to run out of brain power to understand all of this. We don't have the best brains in the universe. And also, we are running out of energy and money to perform the experiments that are needed to verify our thinking. So that may leave us with something like metaphysics, and that may very well be the case. So is philosophy dead? Well, hardly, in my opinion. I have a good friend, the philosopher Gene Bammel, and he often gives the following quote: "Philosophy always buries its undertakers," he said. So how will this mix of science and philosophy affect our spirituality, what we think about all these things? And I can only give you my own feelings. For me, the 10,000 things that Lao Tzu referred to are great and sacred mysteries beyond our understanding, but evoking awe, even worship. We may approach aspects of it through thinking and exploring, but I don't think we will ever penetrate to the core of it. And if I have to define God, I'd say that it is the overwhelming creative power of nature, the Tao, if you will, that resulted in bringing about our consciousness to ponder about these things. So I'm looking forward to your comments in the reflections to follow later, and I fully expect you as good Unitarians will not say amen to all my arguments. In fact, I rather expect to frequently hear you say or not, which is a response that to me sums up the delightful essence of both philosophy and Unitarianism. So which I trust will be with us forever. Thank you for listening so patiently.